Chapter 3. Onyx's POV. The heavy hum of the transport engine vibrated through the steel floorboards. But inside the darkened cabin, the only sound that truly held any meaning was the quiet, rhythmic cadence of her breathing. Vivi had fallen asleep before we even made it out of the club. I had not realized just how exhausted she was. She rested securely in my arms as her scent grew stronger, her heartbeat leveling out as I wrapped her tighter in my embrace, even through the heavy bass that flooded the club, grating on my sensitive ears. Her pulse stayed steady. The memory of the fear the male Merrick had forced her to feel sent intrusive thoughts of ripping his throat out while he smirked at her. She was mine. She was so impossibly light, small and fragile. I felt as though any sudden movement could break her, reminding me of the delicate crystal figurines my mother used to collect when I was a boy, before she was taken from me. Vivi would not be leaving my side. A primal ache stabbed my chest at the thought. What were these feelings? My military HUD interface flared behind my retinas, taking in the raised marks, old scars tracing her face and bare arms. Beneath my touch, her body shivered, the scanner indicating her core temperature was dropping. I unbuttoned my heavy leather jacket and draped it over her legs. Though humans ran warm, much warmer than my own internal baseline, the internal health diagnostics flagged her as anemic. As more data filtered across my vision, a specific alert caught my attention. Her body was approaching her reproductive cycle, and the final diagnostic line confirmed her fertility. My instincts roared in response, as my mate, carrying on my legacy, was vital. But I knew a human female would not simply submit to that duty blindly. It was an obstacle that could easily create conflict between us. The need to know Vivi and to utterly destroy whoever dared touch her or mark her beautiful brown skin flooded my chest like poison. Our species loathed harsh light. Planet 0851 was similar to our homeworld, except ours was illuminated by 3 celestial moons that ushered in long cycles of natural darkness. During those eras, vast bioluminescent flora lit our skies, signaling ancient festivals and the Great Hunt, a sacred tradition where war-class males indulged their primal instincts to track and claim their mates. When I eventually brought her to my homeworld, would she participate? The mere thought of chasing her through the glowing dark, pinning her down, and caging her soft body beneath mine sent an electric shiver down my spine. Yet, alongside that dark hunger was a softer, irrational urge, the desire to see her skin under golden sun rays, where her rich bronze skin would shimmer. My hands ran slowly down her bare arms, feeling the faint, raised lines of her scars. Then, reality hit me. She had not given me permission to touch her in such a way. The realization made my hands pause mid-air, before my possessive instincts betrayed my discipline, moving toward places she had not permitted me to touch. My control shattered into a million pieces, years of grueling training, punishments where I was nearly beaten to death for the smallest slip, and now, finding my mate, I couldn't even command my own hands. I sneered, internally cursing myself for this pathetic lack of restraint. The beast clawing beneath my ribs wasn't just raw emotion or adrenaline. It was a living, ancient apex entity coiled around my very spine. In our culture, a Nytheri male is not born with the beast form. We earn it through the sacred trial at maturity, a lethal rite of passage, where a male must ingest and bond with the ancestral symbiote of our homeworld. If a male's mind is weak, the entity consumes him from the inside out. But if his spirit holds firm, the symbiote fuses into his nervous system, his blood, and his bone, unlocking the terrifying power of the apex warrior. Holding this human female against my chest, The ancient entity inside me was thrashing out of control. Usually, the symbiote responded only to life-or-death battle, but the instant my skin had brushed against Vivi, the entity had ignited, bleeding ink black across my sclera. If I wasn't careful, it could completely take over me, not to destroy, but to claim, protect, and obliterate anyone who dared threaten her. The words of Therek repeated over and over in my head. Siren Kailis, Irshara Vel. The first stage of the Nytheri mating bond has appeared. When we fully mated, our biological markings would manifest, completing the final stage. This couldn't have been worse timing to find my mate. Yet, the moment I had seen her body moving across the dance floor, it felt as though an invisible tether had been pulling me straight toward her. A human, so completely different from the Nytheri females, from her skin color to her beautiful brown eyes. A stark contrast to the silver I was used to seeing in my world, and I loved that she was different. Physically fragile, humans had short lives, making every moment urgent and fleeting. They lacked natural armor, yet when it came to resilience, adaptation, and warfare, they had earned a reputation that even the oldest civilizations respected. They could not easily be controlled, and they refused to surrender even when defeat was inevitable. She knew exactly who carried her, yet she had no idea what I truly was or what I was capable of. A commander, an assassin, one of the most dangerous beings within the Federation. She had every reason to fear me, yet she had accepted my offer to take her home and keep her safe, though before I knew it, we were heading straight to Sector 4. She was mine, and she would need to become strong now. The Nytheri did not tolerate weakness, of which she had none that I could see. She held her ground. Her heart rate had been high, but showed no signs of weakness. The Nytheri were never raised to become ordinary citizens. From birth, discipline replaced childhood, and combat replaced recreation. Knowledge was taught only if it served a tactical purpose. Music, art, entertainment. None made an assassin deadlier. Therefore, none held value. We were not simply soldiers. We were weapons. Our bodies evolved alongside our technology, allowing us to scan life forms, analyze threats, and transform our skin into dense armor during combat. Our silver blood was engineered generations ago into one of the most dangerous biological compounds in existence. It was all I had ever known. Duty, order, discipline, and control. It shattered the moment I saw her. Her laughter and defiance, her unapologetic audacity to insult royalty without hesitation. She had demanded I buy her a drink before she would even entertain a conversation, refusing to give respect unless she received it in return. If Iggy had not been standing right there, her smart mouth would have seen her severely punished by any high commanding officer. Yet, a surge of fierce pride and burning desire tore through me. The thought of her defiance excited my most primal, predatory needs. Was she even safe around me? Her skin gave off the most intoxicating aroma. Lavender and cocoa butter. My hand moved on its own, lifting her small hand to my nose. The warmth radiating off her flesh almost made me lose restraint entirely, nearly licking my way up her bare arm, before my military discipline slammed in at the last second. I forced my head away, pulling her tighter against my chest as she stirred in her sleep. I would make sure she never had to work another cycle in her life. Everything I owned was now hers. Vashar, my mate. I searched my mind for concern or denial. None came. I intended to learn everything there was to know about the human female sleeping in my arms, even if she turned my entire world upside down. My presence on this dark frontier planet was driven by a vital mission. I was in search of a high commander who had gone silent. He had saved my life centuries ago when the capital was brutally attacked by the Rikar Syndicate. My mother, the Queen, had been killed in that battle while protecting me. I still blamed myself for being so weak in that defining moment when the blade went through her back. Commander Kaedrin had arrived too late to save my mother, and a massive section of the collapsing palace fell directly onto his leg, crushing it beyond repair. My father ultimately blamed him for my mother's death and exiled him. Before he vanished, I promised Kaedrin that one day I would restore him to his rightful place beside me. Now, after centuries of searching, I had tracked his signature to a civilian nursing facility on this industrial planet. I was sure it was the very same nursing home where Vivi worked. Usually, other species were uncomfortable, nervous around us. They knew the dangers of being too close to our kind. Yet, even though her heart rate revealed her fear, she was still remarkably comfortable in our presence. The heavy transport slowed, turning down the narrow, rain-slicked alleys of Sector 4, the most neglected, volatile district on planet 0851. It was a decaying industrial wasteland, reminiscent of the roughest earthbound slums. Broken streetlights flickered against rusted iron structures, crumbling stone facades, and smog-choked air. This was a place ruled by shadow, poverty, and crime, a sector where only the desperate, the corrupt, and the lethal survived. Tucked away in the gut of the district stood the building I had secured, a discreet, weathered stone establishment tucked between abandoned warehouses. It was far from a royal estate or a fortified military base. Because this reconnaissance mission was off the books, a search I was never officially sanctioned to conduct, I had brought only a hand-picked squad of my most trusted soldiers. We were operating light, low profile, and under the radar of both the Federation and the local syndicates. As the transport pulled into the rear alleyway, my small unit stepped out to secure the perimeter. Their boots hit the damp pavement, eyes scanning the shadows. Tharek triggered the transport door release, and Vivi stirred slightly as the cold draft hit us. To soothe her, a low rumble vibrated in my chest, a deep purr that successfully lulled her back into sleep. Good. She would not be going anywhere. Carrying her through the side entrance into the quiet building, I made my way up the stone stairs toward my private quarters. The few domestic servants posted here lowered their eyes as I passed, gasping softly at the sight of the human female in my arms instead of Lady Seralia. The awakening of the true mating bond had effectively shattered the political contract between our houses. Thank the goddess for that. Seralia was entirely intolerable, a nasty, jealous woman who possessed nothing of Vivi's unique allure. Entering my darkened bedchamber, I moved to the center of the room and placed her gently onto my bed. Staring down at her short, thick thighs spread against the dark sheets, I shoved my hands deep into my pockets to control the overwhelming urge of my predatory instincts, resisting the drive to wrap my fingers around her curves and squeeze. My gaze traveled slowly up her frame. She was remarkably different from the Nytheri, yet biologically compatible enough that our species could successfully mate, a hidden reality that not even our finest High Council scientists knew. Our females were toned to engineered perfection, but Vivi possessed lush curves and a soft tummy that I desperately wanted to wrap my hands around and squeeze. As I envisioned pushing my length into her, I grew hard at the sheer anticipation of how she would feel around me. Could her tiny human body handle me? The intense pleasure of watching her little frame squirming in pleasure beneath my massive weight had me biting my lower lip hard enough to draw silver blood. I couldn't wait until my biological markings permanently covered her skin, displaying our true, unbreakable mating bond to the entire galaxy. Each Nytheri mating mark differed from each other, from color to shape, uniquely designed to match their mates. I was entirely focused on her form when the heavy doors creaked open and Thrashing entered the chamber. "Commander Onyx, the intelligence report you requested is finalized for you," he announced, stepping forward into the shadows. "Furthermore, we have located Commander—" "Excellent." I cut him off sharply before he could speak the name aloud. Looking back down at the sleeping human, I issued my commands without taking my eyes off her form. "She is not to leave this room under any circumstance. Do you understand?" "Understood, Commander Onyx," Thrashing replied, bowing. Turning on my heel, I walked out of the room as Thrashing stopped right at the door. My command absolute.